Hello. If you can't tell, a few things have changed. Shaved off all my hair, and I've got a new apartment, Crosby Studio with a roommate. Um, I'm just cheap. So now you get to see my bed and this wonderful glass mirror, which shows you that I haven't actually finished packing or unpacking after the move. I don't like that mirror. But on the plus side, I do have better lighting, so I don't have to wait until the middle of the day on a weekend to actually do vlogs. Um, so anyways, let me get on to my video logs. I wanted to do a discussion of the 5 donation methods available to a recipient. In order, how often you'll see them, there's AI, shipping, NI, PI, and direct donation. So let me go over them briefly. AI stands for artificial insemination, but it's a bit of a misnomer. Technically, shipping and direct donation are both also artificial insemination. However, when we say AI in the donor community, we're referring to something a little more specific. We're referring to a fresh donation done without a doctor present. So the donor and the recipient meet up, the donor produces a donation right there, hands it out to the recipient, she inserts the donation. So there's no expense, there's no doctor, nothing like that. Next most common method is shipping. I won't go into too much detail about shipping because I already have a very long written blog on it, which I encourage you to go read. But it is effectively shipping sperm overnighted, chilled but not frozen to a recipient some in another state or even another country if you're shipping from Canada. Shipping is a little bit more expensive. It can range anywhere from $40 to $160, $180 for a shipment, depending primarily on how far away your donor is from you. It can also be it's a little less effective, about 2/3 as effective, very rough estimate. So it has its downsides. However, it allows you to pick pretty much any donor in the United States or Canada. That's huge. I've said already, it's worth any expense, any effort to get a wonderful donor. And if shipping will allow you to get a one for donor rather than settling for a mediocre local donor, I strongly encourage you to ship. So next is NI. NI stands for natural insemination or sex. And it's fairly straightforward. The main thing I want to say is that NI is not any more effective than AI. Some donors would claim that, but they're basically lying to get free sex. Or maybe they have themselves deluded, but in any case, there's no increased effectiveness between AI and NI. Closest that any documents have or any studies have come to suggesting that NI is more effective is the suggestion that a donor who is more sexually excited may be able to produce a higher sperm count in that donation. However, there are many ways for a donor to achieve increased sexual excitement other than sex, and because donors can't produce any faster, if a donor has a larger donation, this donation, that means a lower count in future donations that week. More importantly, increased sperm count doesn't always equate to increased fertility. Once you reach a certain sperm count, any more sperm actually has very little increased natural odds of success. So the point is, don't do NI because you think it's more effective. In fact, NI is more stressful. The stress, which does harm fertility, could do as much harm as any increased sperm count. Let me rephrase. NI can be more stressful for recipients who are not interested in it. If you actually want NI for any other reasons, you want to enjoy the process, you feel it makes you close to donor, whatever, that's truly your choice. However, do not be talked into it by a donor if you aren't interested in it. And be very cautious of any donors who are trying to claim it's more effective. That suggests that they are lying to you. Next is partial insemination, and partial insemination is stupid. I'll come out and say it. What partial insemination is that a donor will not have direct intercourse, but the donor will be next to the recipient, and he will masturbate until he's about to ejaculate, and then enter the recipient to actual ejaculation. And it is stupid. It's stupid for a few reasons. First of all, it doesn't actually increase fertility at all. As I've said, NI is no more effective than AI anyways, so you might as well do AI. But PI would actually be less effective than either of those, since the donor won't have quite the increased sexual excitement. There won't be that added sperm count that may or may not be there for NI. But more importantly, usually this suggests that the donor is going to be expected to pull out immediately afterwards. That pull out immediately afterwards can actually cause some of the sperm to be removed. If you were actually doing NI, it would be better for the donor to stay in right after ejaculation for some length of time. And any woman who's doing PI probably is not interested in PI. If they were, they'd be doing NI. So basically, PI is offered as a compromise, and no recipient ever really wants it, so there's all the increased stress. It's no more effective, probably less effective than NI or AI. And in addition, by definition, no recipient wants it. This is a supposed compromise from donors who really want to have sex. Their way of saying, hey, here's another alternative. See, I'm so compassionate, I'm going to give you other options. But really, it's less effective. Anyone doing it, any recipient doing it is clearly uninterested in it and is being bullied into it by a donor. It's not a compromise. It's a selfish way for a donor to get his jollies off with no benefit for the recipient at all. So don't do PI. Finally, there's directed donation. Directed donation is by far the less commonly known or used of the donation methods. This involves a donor going to a cryobank and producing a donation at the cryobank for a specific recipient. It has benefits and downsides. The benefits include a extremely thorough STD test, so there's no risk at all of STDs being contracted from the donor. It also gives you complete legal protection entirely, which is very nice for some recipients. I don't think either of these are quite as useful as you may believe, because the actual risk of both STDs or donor trying to first contact is actually far less likely than you believe, and I'll try to go into more detail about why that is in another blog. If you use some basic precautions, basic screening, neither of those are great risks, but some women feel far more comfortable having those protections. On the downside, there may or may not be a mandatory 6-month quarantine for a directed donation. It depends on your state, basically. You have to check your own state rules. Easiest way is just call your local fertility clinic and ask them what their rules are. However, some nurses will presume that the quarantine is needed even if the state doesn't require it. I've seen this happen a few times. So if it is something you're really interested in and you don't want the quarantine, make sure you ask a few times or you speak to your doctor yourself. Make them actually check the legal protocol, because some might misstate it without realizing that they are, unless you really push them on it and ask them directly. The other downside is that direct donation can be a little expensive. It's statistically less expensive than anonymous sperm, but it's a much larger upfront cost. There's a single expense somewhere around $2,500 to $2,000 for the original donation. However, that donation is going to effectively produce as much sperm as you could possibly need. I go in more detail in the blogs, but one donation usually gets broken up to multiple vials, and once you pay the upfront cost, you can actually have the donor go back for multiple donations within the month for very little additional cost. So it's a large upfront expense, but it gives you enough vials that you're pretty much guaranteed to have a success if you were ever going to have a success before you run out of vials. Therefore, statistically, it can be cheaper than anonymous sperm, because you don't have to keep buying sperm every single month. You get all the vials your donor produces, they are yours, there's no expense once they're produced. So statistically cheaper, much larger upfront expense. That will usually discourage most recipients from using it. However, the biggest advantage of directed donation is the very same one for shipping, which is you should be willing to do anything for a great donor. Nearly any donor who does AI will be willing to do a directed donation. Speaking from a donor who's done all these donation methods, other than IPI and Virgin. Um, direct donation is by far the most simple donation process. Donor only has to donate once. He can decide when to donate. It's just a lot easier. So almost all donors who are doing AI will be willing to do direct donation, which means you effectively have any donor in the US, Canada, or any other country really available to you. That's a huge advantage. It gives you many donors to pick from. It allows you to get the very best donor. And so while I know most don't consider it, I do encourage you to at least think about it if you can't find a good local donor, simply because it allows you to pick any donor out there. Anyways, that's really all there was. I just wanted to briefly go over the various donation methods so everyone was aware of them. That way, if I use the abbreviations in the future, you know what they are. So I guess that's everything for now. Have a good evening and good luck in your donor hunt.